Basking Ridge, New Jersey, and I go live every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time to share with you some of the things that I've been working on or some things coming up. Or in this case, we're working on the templates that are included in the 2024 to 2025 catalog on page 22. And we are up to template number 9 in my little series. And so let's go ahead and see what we've got today. So I'll pop on over to my desktop. And here we go. So this is template number 9, and you can see this, as I mentioned, on page 22 of the annual catalog. Just trying to get my camera a little bit straighter. I gotta work on that, I think. But you can see that this template's fairly simple. It's just a matter of using a bunch of strips to go across a card, vertical card, and it's just a standard card, and then you can have your sentiment. And just so you know, the card front is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And that would be here and then down. And then each of these strips, which is probably what you're probably concerned about, are 1/2 inch by about 3 1/2 inches, maybe 3 5/8, and then there are 10 of them on here. So you can see that that works out to about 5 inches of the space that you're taking up of the 5 1/2, and then of course 3 1/2 inches of the 4 1/4 going across. So those are the dimensions that I was working with when I created this card. So here you go. This is the card we're going to make today. Quick and easy and simple. All I did was I decided, okay, which designer series paper do I want to work with today? Because I love designer series paper. And so I decided on the Mediterranean Blooms, and I actually took 5 of the different sheets and I cut 1-inch strip, I'm sorry, 1/2 inch strips. And, just as I mentioned, and then I did it twice out of the 5 strips, and I'm going to use one side of the paper with all the different, let's see, lemons and oranges, or I don't know, peaches. And then of course the other side, which has the shades of blues to give that Mediterranean look. So you can see I've had 5 of these and 5 of the other ones, and that's what we're going to use to build our card. So I'm using Night of Navy as my card base, and I just folded an 8 1/2 by 8 1/2 by 5 1/2 sheet of paper in half. And I'm going to take a piece of white, basic white cardstock to put on the inside, because I like to have something to be able to write on, especially when a card base is very dark. So here we have that. Then I'm just going to, just for ease of production here, I'm going to just work on the card front. Hi, Betsy. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my adhesive and I'm going to put a couple of strips down, not too close to the edge, any of the edges, and I'm going to use that for my strips. So I am not, as you can see on this card and in the template, they were not lined up. You could certainly line them up if that you feel that need. Excuse me. Of course, you can always decide to choose different papers, and have them coordinate, differently. I have some pretty extremes here, and I'm just randomly, these are not in any order, and I'm just laying them down, and you can see I'm not lining them up per se. I am butting them up against each other so that I don't have any space in between, but I'm just randomly laying them down. I'm going to put this one out a little bit this way, and you'll see that in the end it will turn out that it will take up just the right amount of paper of the card front to cover it, and that's because of those dimensions that I mentioned. So you could, of course, give more thought to how you put these down, and I am definitely not. I did not prearrange them previously, which I could have done, but that's just too much work for me. If I'm going to go random, I'm going to be random. Okay, so here we go, and looks like somehow I started up too high. Well, isn't that embarrassing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so I went a little bit too high when my start, so I probably should have thought about that a little bit harder, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and use this as our card front, and it makes a lovely background. I could also take another piece, an 11th piece, and put it down there, but of course I don't have any right here. And, you know, best laid plans. Think I have it all under control. Never do. Anyhow, so let's go ahead and put this on the card front. And it really isn't going to matter at all. The only thing is I have a little bit of adhesive sticking out here. Here's a little trick for you. You can use, we have an adhesive eraser, and you can pull it off with that. But what I like to do is just use my finger, and I'm just taking off that adhesive. Now, it's not going to be perfect. I probably will go back with my little adhesive eraser. Nice little extra to have on hand. But you can see this finger method works pretty darn well because it's just sitting on top of the paper, and as long as you haven't stuck anything to it, it'll come right off. So there you go. There's a bonus tip for you that we didn't even expect. All right, so yeah, that's really all you do. I would make sure your fingers are clean, but you know, I try to keep my hands clean all the time anyway, so I should be okay. Of course, if I'd been stamping, I'd be all inky, and that would be a different story. But anyway, let's move on. So for my sentiment tag, I used the Unbounded Love dies. I happen to really like this border around the outside, and it, you know, pretty much there are so many different sentiments that you can stamp in the center of that, and I happen to be using my very, very favorite Simply Said stamp set. I think this is a guaranteed winner. Everyone should have one in their collection. Can always find a way to use them, but I'm going to use just a note and my Night of Navy ink pad, and I'm just going to stamp this right in the center. Voila. And then we're just going to add it to the front of the card using dimensionals. Now, most of the time I would be adding things, right? You know me, I want a little bling there, a little ribbon, but I didn't really have anything that was just right. So I decided, you know, sometimes less is more, especially since this is so incredibly busy. Now, you of course could put this anywhere. Oops, sorry about that. Anywhere on the card, but I'm going to put it in the lower right. And there you go. So you've got two cards. You can see the backgrounds are different but similar. This one is spaced a little bit better, but you can see how that ends up working just nicely. You can make an entire set of these cards in minutes, and it is a great template to use. Now, the template, though, can also be used in a couple of different ways, and I want to show you. One is I turned it on its side, so I made it a horizontal card. And I also, instead of going edge to edge with the strips of paper, I went ahead and put them on a piece of peach pie cardstock. And this paper is from the Lily Pad collection. Not sure it's called Lily Pad, but something like that. And they all have on the reverse side of some of the scenic type designs, they have these different more neutral designs, if you will. I happen to love this one. I'll probably be using that sometime in the future, but you can see that I didn't go edge to edge. I left space in between each strip, and also you'll notice that the strips are different sizes, so there's no law saying that they have to be that 1/2 inch by 3.5 inches to put onto your page. You can do it any way you want. It's your card. All right, so but now I want to show you something else. All right, so it's going to be a little bit of a surprise, but I'm going to take a piece of basic white cardstock. And this is based on a card that I saw from a whole nother company. Actually, I think it was just an artist. She was doing freehand stuff. And I'm going to take some of our, let me show you this. This is our Stampin' Up! Masking paper. And what this is it's self-adhesive. And one side will be sticky and the other side will not. Where's my take your pick tool to help me out with this? Sometimes it's a little hard to get the edge started, but you can see here. There we go. Start it like that. And what I'm going to use this for is, just like the title says, is I'm going to use this for masking off an area. And on this card, I'd like to mask it off. Let's do it right, kind of pretty much right in the middle. And what's nice about this masking paper is that it will peel off relatively easily, and it will leave white space underneath where the masking paper is. Okay, so now I'm going to take a bunch of markers. Now you could use any markers for this particular card, and I think you're going to want to, but I grabbed just a bunch of my really bright colors of my blender pens, my Stampin' Blends, I should say. You could use regular markers, you could use Crayola markers, it doesn't matter. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to be drawing a whole bunch of lines. And we'll see if you can guess what it is I'm making. But I don't have these in any particular order. And you could, of course, give a lot more thought to the colors you're using, the way you lay them down. Some can be thicker than others. This one's really dark. I did not necessarily realize that the shaded spruce was going to be so dark. I'm going to hold off on the yellow, though. It's a little light for what I'm trying to do. But I'm just putting primary colors into stripes, I should say, on my card. And you can use as many or as few as you want, but I can have lots of them on this one because you'll see. Don't know if you can guess what it is that I'm doing, but it's just very exciting. I figured, wouldn't it be more fun to just leave it as a surprise for you than to tell you straight out what it is I'm doing? Maybe a little frustrating, but I'm almost done here, and I'm just going to keep going until, and I'm just repeating the pattern by the way that I laid it down. So I'm going to leave it like that. And what I'm going to do is then peel this up carefully, and you'll see I have a mostly, of course, best laid plans. The one thing about Stampin' Blends is that it might go through a little bit. So I would say maybe if you have the regular Stampin' Right markers, they might work better. I hadn't really thought of that before this, but I'm going to take my Sweetly Scripted stamp set and I'm going to use the Happy Birthday. So you can see I'm making a birthday card. No more surprises here. And I'm going to ink up that stamp all the way across, and I'm going to stamp Happy Birthday in the middle, like so. And that is really fun, minus those little speckles there. Again, if you use regular Stampin' Right markers, you probably won't have that. But let's finish this off. So we're going to finish it with, we're going to make some candles. All right, so these are all candles. And to make the little flame on top, I'm just taking my brush point and I'm pressing it down. And you can have it touch or not. And look how quick and easy this birthday card is. Really fun and easy to make. And then I'm going to actually take a Sharpie. And you can do this or not. You don't have to add it, but I like to put a little wick, if you will, on each of the candles so that it's very clear what we've created here. All right. And then all we have to do is mount it and make it pretty. So you get the idea. We're going to mount it onto some Azure Afternoon and then a card base of Pool Party, and we end up with this. Isn't that fun? And if you look at this, let's turn our card on the side, our template, and we've got those stripes. And we've just added our sentiment in a little bit of a different way. So it just goes to show that your templates don't have to be done necessarily with paper. You can just use stamp designs or even just hand-drawn designs. And it's great. It makes a great use of those markers that you probably have somewhere in a stash. Or, as I said, you can use any markers at all. Now, since I have so many little speckles here, this is from probably cleaning stamps. Sometimes I get speckles if I have something too close. But I might give this a little speckle around, and to do that, let me just show you what I've seen people do. I'm just going to open the brush tip. Let's use the Azure Afternoon. And if you just flick it a little bit, let's see. People just tap it on and you get little speckles of ink that come out onto your paper. So that's just another way, another thing that you can do with your markers. Very fun. So those are my cards for today. So hopefully you've learned a couple of things and seen that the twist of the template is just making it like this instead of like this. All right. So I think that is all I have for today. Let me pop back over so I can see you one last time. If you have any questions, you can certainly let me know. I have put the colors of the markers that I used and the dimensions of both cards of the paper in the notes that are underneath the YouTube video. So if you pop over to the YouTube video, the measurements are also on Facebook. And again, if you have any questions, let me know. Let's see. Next week, we'll be back with template number 10. So looking forward to seeing you then. Thanks, Betsy. Take care. Bye-bye.